we're back with Nikachu, and you asked for it, so we are delivering the very most words possible in Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and you are going to have to tell me whether the card is good or if it's bad. These cards have absolute books on them. Are you ready to read?
Oh, I'm ready, and I'm not gonna panic. Just like how Yugi didn't panic versus Panic, destroyed Panic in one shot, and I'm gonna take on all these cards in one shot as well. Bring them on!
I'm so sorry for the amount of words that are going to have to be uttered out of your mouth while you read these.
Well, at least it's gonna make for a good bedtime story for all the viewers.
We are going from the least words to the most words. Mind you, all of them have a lot of words. And these are also some of the most requested cards in the comments. So if you have any cards that you want to request for future videos, make sure to put them down in the comments because I'm using them, starting with...
We got the Golden Castle of Stromberg. It's a spell card. And it's got a weird symbol. Is that relevant?
That means it's a field
card,
spell.
Squiggly thing.
It's similar to a world...
Is it what?
Similar to like a world enchantment.
All right, it's a world spell. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must banish 10 cards from the top of your deck, face down. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. During your main phase, you can special summon one monster from your deck that specifically lists the card Golden Castle of the Stromberg in its text. You cannot normal summon, set the turn you activate this effect, even if the card leaves the battlefield. You can only use this effect of Golden Castle of Stromberg once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy the attacking monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack that monster had on the field. You know, this thing like reads like those super old alpha cards that they try to explain like all the rules text all at once, you know, before mechanics were invented. Like, that's how I'm interpreting this thing. It says this is not optional.
It's like the chains of Mephistopheles.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. They try to really explain the rules text on this thing. Okay, well, that was the first reading. The second reading is always a lot easier. So we banish 10 cards from the top of our deck face down. That is... Oh, and so it goes on to the battlefield?
Golden Castle of Stromberg, when you activate it, it does go on the battlefield like a world enchantment, like a world spell.
No. I mean, when we're banishing the 10 cards, it says face... Or is it going into exile?
Going into exile.
Magic, like, when we... Okay, so it's just in exile, face down.
Yes.
Okay, so we don't even know what they are. They're just... So it's like milling. It's self-mill.
You get to look at the exiled face-down cards that your opponent does not get to.
Oh, that's interesting. And then you can special summon one monster from your deck, if it's still in there, that specifically lists the card Golden Castle of Stromberg. I don't get it. Like, isn't this the Golden Castle of Stromberg, or is it also referencing other Golden Castles of Strombergs?
Like other cards in like the Golden Castle of Stromberg archetype have like a if you have Golden Castle of Stromberg face up on your side of the field, that would be considered a card that mentions Golden Castle of Stromberg.
That's wild and ridiculous.
Like if it's in the text of the card.
All right. What if it's in the flavor text? Do you guys have flavor text? Yeah, you have flavor text.
Yeah, we have flavor text. But no, flavor text doesn't count.
All right. Then it lied. You cannot normal summon / set the turn you activate this effect. Okay, I can't normal summon / set the turn you activate the effect. Even if this card leaves the battlefield, you can only use this effect of Golden Castle of Stromberg once per turn. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy the attacking monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack of the monster on the field. So, I mean, this card is a little difficult to evaluate because it is... I don't know how good the other Golden Castle of Stromberg's cards are. I mean, it's going to be very relevant to the power level of those. On the other hand, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, we get to destroy... Are they forced to declare an attack every turn?
No.
Okay. In Magic, you cannot skip through the attack phase. I mean, you have to declare an attack, even if you have no intention of attacking.
Well, you can just not attack with the creatures you have unless they're like goaded or something.
Okay, gotcha. And so when they declare an attack, we destroy the attacking monster, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack. This is like a trap card That's face up, right? Like, this is just a face up trap card. You would have to be really stupid to fall for the trap. And it's only, well, you do destroy the monster, like wholesale. So we don't have 3 tiers this time?
We can do the tiers if you want to do the tiers. We've always done the tiers with you.
Oh, yes. Well, I didn't know if it's only going to be on good or bad. So remember the tiers. Tier 1, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Your cards might be really bad, but in Magic, your worst cards are like tier 1 in Magic. Like, they'd obliterate us. And so a better card than your garbage is tier 0. And then the absolute best cards are tier -1. Since this is just a face-up nonsense card, I am taking a bit of a gamble here. I have no idea what the other Golden Castle cards do, because it looks like it's like a tutor. You can special summon 1 monster from your deck that specifically lists the card Golden Castle of Stromberg. How do you cast this card? You just put it down?
Yeah, if it's in your hand, you can just play it like a sorcery. It's not a sorcery, bro. You can play it like an enchantment.
Yeah, I get it. So it's like a 0 mana, get a creature, and your opponent can't attack with a creature unless they want it blown up and blasted right back to their face. But then they can just blow this card up. But then you cannot use... You said you can't use the effect until next turn? Is that what it says? Once per turn.
You can only use this effect of Golden Castle of Stromberg once per turn. And you can't normal summon or set the turn you activate it.
Yeah, so like they get a whole... So I can't get my creature the first turn.
Well, you can get the creature off this. You just can't normal summon or set anything else.
Oh, okay, so I play this, I get the I tutor out the creature. I tutor, get the creature, put into my hand, and this thing...
It actually doesn't put it into your hand. It puts it onto the field.
It tutors it directly into play!
Yeah, it says special summon 1.
That's insane!
The deck.
How good is this goal? So it's a big gamble. How good is this Golden Castle thing?
Even
though it's like a face-up trap, like they still have to deal with it, or else they have to lose one of their attacking creatures. Just out of curiosity, if you destroy the attacking monster, it's not going to deal any damage to you. So they attempt to attack, it just blows up, and then blasts right back into their face.
To the Shadow Realm, yes.
To the Shadow Realm with this thing. Okay, but the Golden Castle of Stromberg.
Listen, this is the easiest one.
It doesn't look very menacing.
This is the easiest one on the list. It gets harder and harder from here.
And it comes from your deck, too. Oh, man.
Listen, this is what the people want. We're giving the people what they want.
Yeah, I know. This is so... It's so contact dependent. Like, there's a lot of cards in Magic. There's some cards where you can tutor anything into play, but then sometimes that has a restriction that you can only tutor garbage in play, and like it's just not even worth it. But you get to tutor this immediately. Like, you just play this, and you can special summon 1 monster from your deck. So that means it's a big monster.
Correct.
But it is restricted to anything that says Golden Castle of Stromberg in it,
which may or may not be a little bit of cards, or a lot of cards, that say Golden Castle Stromberg.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm assuming it's going to be a few cards. There might be I'm going to take a wild guess. There's like 3 cards that it can tutor out. I'm going to say it's garbage. I'm going to say tier 1.
I'm going to get blasted in the comments for this, but yes, it's tier 1. It's garbage. I'm just going to say it right now. Garbage, unplayable. Okay, comments, it's time for you to spam.
Oh, people are going to remind you, hey, back in the day, it was like really good at that one tournament before they printed that new set that made this obsolete. Yeah, you can keep living in those days, We have a lot of players like that in Magic as well.
It's time for you to blast me in the comments. Yeah, this card's unplayable right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! At one point, it was playable.
One of those context-dependent cards?
Yeah, at one point it was playable. There was a whole deck based around this, and I think it did well in a tournament or 2 in the past. But yeah, this card's pretty bad right now. Decks are just way too good. Decks do way too many things. But people, I think, would play this in a stun deck, a stun-style deck, before like really good stun cards like Mystic Mine came out, and just beat you in the face a bunch of times with a Hextrude, with a Golden Castle of Stromberg in play, so you can't really attack over the Hextrude, because the Golden Castle of Stromberg would just destroy your monster. So they would summon this out of the deck. But I think that's the only card they would summon out of the deck with the Golden Castle of Stromberg. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, 7 cards that say Golden Castle of Stromberg in text, 6 of which are monsters.
Disney looked at that interaction and was like, we can do that better. We'll make our own card game with princesses and stuff. We'll call it Lorcana.
Oh my god. Next up, I'm gonna have Lorcana content creators rate Yu-Gi-Oh cards and show them Princess and Pumpkin.
Show them all the Disney-looking cards.
Yeah. Long story short, when Princess is normal or special summon, you can special summon the Pumpkin carriage from the hand to the deck, and then if Golden Castle or Stromberg is in the field zone, you can equip a Glass Slippers from your deck to this card.
Oh my god. Like directly ripping off Disney intellectual property.
Exactly. I don't even know how they got away with it. I want to tell you about a game I've been playing on my phone in my spare time, Raid Shadow Legends. Explore a visually stunning fantasy realm featuring over 800 champions across 15 playable factions. Rally orcs, knights, elves, and a diverse array of fantasy creatures. And you can download and try the game for free using my link or scan the QR code and receive amazing heroes. Raid are also giving away the Monkey King legendary Sun Wukong for free by using the code Monkey King. He has special abilities like stealing buffs from all enemies before attacking them. He can even place a block buffs on all targets. In addition to all this, he has a powerful passive which can revive him fully. And it is the holidays, so you can get involved by joining Raid's Christmas story. You can follow Sir Nicholas through a festive story. It comes with mini games to solve and a chance to win both in-game and real prizes, like in-game items, rare, epic, and legendary champions, and even Amazon gift cards. Cursed City is one of Raid's biggest features, with 100 stages to complete, including stages where you need to take down 2 of Raid's bosses at the same time. Use the link in my description below, or scan the QR code to receive Epic's heroes, Lightsworn, and once you reach level 15, Juliana for free, and start summoning powerful champions as soon as you start the game. Once you're in, start crushing your enemies, and we will be legends together.
Ho ho! We got the Odd Eyes Wing Dragon for exactly 8 Dragon Balls. And it's got some sort of crystals going to the left and right, a blue and a red one. For 10. And also, once per turn before damage calculation, if your monster battles an opponent's monster, you can make your monster gain attack equal to the opponent's monster attack until end of the damage step. And it's a dragon synchro pendulum effect. I've now come to realize I think effect is meaningless. Like, if it has any text below like the creature type, it's an effect card. Like, I don't know why they have to like specify it. And it's got, was it 1 dark tuner or tuner?
Tuner.
Dot 1 non-tuner clear wing monster. If this card is in the monster zone, or if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. You can only use one of the following effects of Odd Eyes Wing Dragon per turn, and only once that turn. And it's got a big black dot. You can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until end of this turn, and also during the battle phase, if you control the synchro summoned card, quick effect, you can destroy all level 5 or higher monsters your opponents control. Well, that sounds good. And also, the last ability is the only thing I can really understand. Oh, and for everyone that also needs to technically know, it attacks for 3,000. It defends for 2,500. Hold on, this number at the bottom left, is that relevant too? It says DIFO EN098.
No, that is the set and the set number.
Oh, okay. I thought that would have been actually below everything. You can never tell what's relevant or not relevant on this card anymore. I mean, it just spit out a bunch of like keywords that are meaningless to me. Okay, so
I need to let you know how
what are the crystals for?
Do you remember how the synchro mechanic works?
Okay, hold on. I saw a YouTube video that once tried to explain in 1 minute Yu-Gi-Oh to someone who hadn't played Yu-Gi-Oh in like 10 years, and it seemed to explain that like synchro was like, it was like mutate or something like that. It was combining monsters.
Kind of is.
Something like that. So I guess you have to merge this with another So is it like tribute, but you're not sacrificing the thing anymore?
Correct. You just put them from the field into the graveyard, and the requirement to summon this out of the extra deck. Remember that like full companion zone that you have of 15 cards that you can just play at any time, basically. This goes in there.
Broken companion zone.
Exactly. It says 1 dark tuner plus 1 non-tuner clear wing monster. There's an archetype of like dragons basically called clear wing,
Mhm.
and then you need any tuner that, and you see that top right where it says dark and it's like purple color.
Yeah,
that's the attribute of the monster, and this attribute of this monster is dark. So you see where it says dragon / synchro / pendulum / effect. In that line, it will say if it is a tuner or not. This is not a tuner, but it will say tuner if it is one. Okay, so you need a tuner that's dark, and then you need a non-tuner clear wing monster in order to make
and
this.
then with those, you can bring out
and
the amazing Odd Eyes Winged Dragon.
The levels need to add up to 8, exactly 8. That's what the Dragon Balls mean.
Finally, the levels matter. The Dragon Balls.
Yes.
They've come into play for the first time in 3 shows.
Yes, the Dragon Balls come into play right now. That's how you synchro summon. Okay, now I get to tell you what the 10 and the crystals mean. Okay? This might blow your mind.
What's with these Candy Crush crystals here?
you know how you have the 5 spell and trap card zones?
Yes.
The leftmost and rightmost spell and trap card zones are also pendulum zones.
Okay.
This is basically like a split card. It's half of a spell card and half of a monster. Basically. You see where it says it goes from white to blue?
Okay. So it's like an adventure card almost, but I guess you just can only use one side or the other?
It's kind of like a split card, yes, but you can only use one side or the other and can't use both at the same time. You would play this as a monster, and then that first line, if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place this card in your pendulum zone, which is the left or the rightmost spell and trap card zone.
Oh, so hold on. If it's a monster on the battlefield and they blow it up, I get like the second half of it?
You get that top half where it says once per turn before damage calculation, if your monster battles an opponent's monster, you can make your monster gain attack equal to the opponent's monster's attack to the end of the damage step. Then that effect will apply once it's in the pendulum zone.
Yeah, so it is like an adventure card, but reversed.
I
get the creature half first, and then when that thing dies, I get the adventure half.
Yes, but not all pendulum cards are like that. Most pendulum cards that like aren't in the extra deck like this, you can just place them in the pendulum zone as like a free action at any point, and it will have their pendulum effect. Their monster effect is only in effect while it's like in a zone other than the pendulum zone. Now, I need to tell you what the 10 is and what the blue and the red means.
Yeah, what's with 10 Candy Crush crystals?
Okay, you can place this in the blue left one, the blue one, or you can place it in the right red one, spell and trap card zone, when this dies. If you have another pendulum monster in the other pendulum zone, you can special summon 1 time per turn out of your hand or face up in your extra deck, and I'll get to that soon. Face up in your extra deck into the extra monster zone or any monster zone that a link monster you control points to.
This is wild. I mean, I can't tell if this is like super ridiculously win more or actually this is strategically significant. You know, the whole idea of the extra deck just seems to completely blow away the point of starting the game with 5 cards. Like, I understand in Magic we have 7 cards in our hand because we need like a balance of spells to cast and also the lands to cast our spells. You guys have 5 cards. No resources required to cast anything. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit fair. But then you have this extra deck, so you basically have you have 15 cards?
Yes.
Yeah, 15 card extra deck. So effectively your hand starts the game at 15 plus 5. You have 20 cards in your hand. This is ridiculously stupid. And then you can go get extra cards from and then directly put them on the play with this damn thing.
I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, but say you have a pendulum monster in your other pendulum zone that has a pendulum, they're called pendulum scales. The 10 there is called a pendulum scale. It has a pendulum scale of 0, okay? And you have that one on the other side of your spell and trap card zone. So pendulum scale 0, Odd Eyes Winged Dragon on the other one, okay, after they destroyed it. Then once per turn and only once per turn, you can special summon any amount of monsters from your hand or face up on your extra deck in the zones that link monsters point to from the extra deck. Okay, that are between 0 and 10, but not including 0 and 10. So any monster with level 1 through 9, you can summon out of your hand all of them once per turn. It's like an extra normal summon.
Just played this thing versus Yugi. He would have just destroyed him before he could even get all the pieces of Exodia. He would have had no chance. The Blue Eyes White Dragon is complete garbage compared to this thing.
I knew I would have to explain Pendulums to you. I knew I'd have to explain Pendulums to you in this episode, and I know the comments are going absolutely wild.
Yeah, that's not exactly right. Well, you know what? It really doesn't matter a whole lot. I mean, there's still like, so we to synchro, we need a dark tuner and a non-dark tuner. And if this card is in the monster, if this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place this card. Oh yeah, you just explained that. So it gets destroyed, goes to the pendulum zone, and we get the other effect, which is once per turn before damage calculation. If your monsters battles an opponent's monster, you can make your monster's attack equal to the opponent's monster. That's pretty neat. It's like doubling. I mean, and all the attacks are bigger than their defense, so it's going to blast our opponent for a ton of damage. And also, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effect until end of turn. Negate its effect until the end of this turn. Destroy the battle. During the battle phase, if you control this synchro summoned card as a quick effect, you can destroy all level 5 or higher monsters your opponents control. Okay, here's another question I have for you. Are there any cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! With this much text that are bad?
Yeah.
Like this giant 8 Dragon Ball pendulum monstrosity, or are they like all good to some degree?
I mean, this is a show that you're supposed to guess if it's good or bad. I can't just tell you the answers.
No, I'm just saying, like, did they print any cards with this much words? And they're like bulk garbage, because there's plenty of them in Magic. It's an infinite wall of text, and it's just trash. I mean, it barely sees playing Commander.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm going to take a wild. Maybe this is not a wild guess. It makes your attack like way stronger. So probably it can be a 2-turn kill based on like how big these things are and the fact that everyone has like 8,000 life points. It can blow up all the relevant stuff on your opponent's side, and also it gets value if it dies. Which is that effect, by the way. I don't want to say it like, hold on. You can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate. Hold on, what does this mean? Oh, so I can negate its effect until the end of this turn?
That is not a quick effect.
It's not a quick. Hold on, is this just what is it? A constant effect, or I just once?
That one's a sorcery speed ability.
You can target one effect monster your opponent's controls. So basically, it enters the battlefield. I get this thing.
Right.
This ability.
Right.
It's a stifle.
Well, not
really.
Not when it enters the battlefield.
Merfolk Trickster.
It's Merfolk Trickster, but if you could just use Trickster, not necessarily on the summon of it, you can summon this, and then at any point during your turn at sorcery speed, you can just do that.
I got a feel for the heart of the cards here, and I'm gonna say this is just tier 0. I think this is a little too convoluted for what it does, and it doesn't like super obliterate it does a lot of stuff. It's not clear to me that what it's building up to is super, super busted. But it looks good. Like it's got a lot of utility.
Yeah, you're right. It's more of like a tier 0, because you could play this. You could theoretically play this in a deck, but I don't know of a deck that is competitive right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! That has done well in tournaments that has played this.
Well, then maybe it's just tier 1. If it's not competitive, then it's crap.
I mean, if you made a Clearwing deck, I'm sure you would play this card and it would be good, because there are ways to summon synchro monsters on your opponent's turn. So in the middle of your opponent's turn, you can just summon this and then quick effect destroy all level 5 or higher monsters your opponent controls. It's a little.
So it can be an instant speed board wipe.
That it is an instant speed board wipe. It says during the battle phase, if you control this synchro summon card, quick effect, which means it is an instant speed effect, you can destroy all level 5 or higher monsters your opponent controls. The problem with it is that if your opponent has cards on the field that don't have a level, like Exceeds monsters or just a lot of monsters that are level 4 or lower, this doesn't have any applications. So in that aspect, it's very narrow, and you can't even use this during their main phase. It has to be during the battle phase. And you have to control this synchro summon card. So if you summon this by other means that wasn't synchro summoned, which is possible, you can't even get this effect. The pendulum effect that you see over in between the 10s there isn't very good. Yeah, it makes this a little bit more of like a tier 0 medium card.
Tier 0 or tier 1 in the comments section. Let me know. I think he's being a little too generous to me. This doesn't see tournament play. I would give it tier 1.
Well, I mean, if I say it's tier 1, then all the Clearwing players will, like, rise up from the grave and tell me how good this card is.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, I get it. Don't you be bashing my Clearwing dragon, damn it.
Exactly. So, anyway, hopefully, I know you didn't grasp anything about pendulums, but maybe it will grow on you after a while, and you'll understand.
Yeah, hopefully. It has to grow on me fast, because I'm probably going to read a bunch of other pendulum cards.
Good luck reading this.
It's DDD, Super Doom King Bright Armageddon for 10 Dragon Balls. What's the most Dragon Balls in this game?
12?
At 12, do you have to sacrifice 3 creatures?
I don't think so. I think it's just 2 for level 7 or higher. But usually those high level of monsters, you're never going to normal summon. So it doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, of course. Only 1 Candy Crush crystal for the blue and the red, and also once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can target DDD synchro monster you control. Destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible with defense less than or equal to the targeted monster's attack. Destroy as many monsters your opponent's control as possible with defense less than or equal. Oh, so this is so if your opponent's creatures don't have a big butt, they blow up. Pays to have a big butt versus this guy. And if you do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed. Well, that's insane. So you can deal at potentially 5,000 damage. Just one-shot them to death.
Or 6,000 damage if your opponent has a monster in their extra monster zone.
Uh-huh. But they would never attack then. Like, you'd have to be stupid to walk into this thing. All right, it's got Fiend Synchro Effect. And 1 DD Tuner. So we need a DD Tuner. And then 1 non-DDD monster. Oh my god. The DDDs! Must be related to King DDD. And your opponent cannot target monsters you control with card effects. If another monster is normal or special summoned while this monster is on the field, except during the damage step, you can make your opponent choose 1 Pendulum monster they control, and all other monsters they currently control have their effects negated. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place this card in your Pendulum zone. So it's again like if this thing gets blown up, yeah, it's the reverse adventure card again. Okay, so first off, Pendulum effect, not very interesting. So once per turn, when an opponent declares an attack, which they can choose not to, you get its effect. But like, they would just not do it. It basically puts the opponent on a standstill until they get rid of this thing. I guess for a second time. And then the second half looks pretty good. But you have to tribute like 2. So hold on, do you have to tribute at the same time that you're synchroing, or does the synchroing like replace tributing?
You choose the synchro monster that you want to summon, and then you put the synchro materials from the field into the graveyard, and then you summon the.
Okay, so it's like very special tributing is what it is.
Yes,
gotcha. And it needs to be a DD tuner or a non. And also 1 non-tuner DDD monster.
Yes. Oh, I have to mention something.
Well, it's
a DD monster is not necessarily a DDD monster, but a DDD monster is always a DD monster.
That's not intuitive.
Because
you can't do that, Kaiba.
The name of this card.
You don't understand how DDD monsters work.
The name of this card is DDD, Super Doom King Bright Armageddon. And this is still considered a DD card. But a DD card with 2 Ds is not considered a DDD card.
In the anime, do they ever like rules judge each other? It's like, you can't do that. Like, that's not how that card works.
No. Usually it's like,
I don't care, Yugi. This is exactly how I'm going to play it. They do whatever they want. So if another monster is normal or special summoned while this monster is on the field, except during the damage step, you can make your opponent choose one pendulum monster they control and all their monsters currently control. But their pendulum monster is still active, right? Well, that's not good. So it negates all their other monsters, but the pendulum monster remains, and that's obviously the most important monster. So it doesn't even deal with their largest threat.
If they are playing a pendulum deck.
Yeah, if they're playing a pendulum deck. Which in that, well, I mean, if they're not playing a pendulum deck, wouldn't that just suck? Oh, you make your opponent choose one So what you're saying is if they have no pendulum monster in play, everything else is negated anyway.
Yes.
Or do they need a pendulum monster in play for me to activate this?
No. It will negate everything
so except
I can for one
no
pendulum monster. But if they don't have a pendulum monster, it will still negate everything.
I feel underwhelmed by this for some reason. The mana crystal thing is very low. This is, again, like, it's so context dependent. I don't even know how good this DD Tuner and DDD Monster thing is.
DDD is a relatively playable deck. It's a relatively playable archetype. It's okay.
Because these have to be relatively good cards no matter what. It goes into your extra deck. And if you don't need to pull this thing, you just don't pull the thing out. Monster is normal or special summon this monster is on the battlefield. You can make your opponent choose one pendulum monster they control and all other monsters. It just negates all their effects. So it just turns them all into vanilla creatures, I'm assuming. It like removes all the abilities for the rest of the game, correct?
Right.
Well, that's not bad. But I don't know how often people have like a ton of things on the battlefield because everyone's racing to get the pendulum monster out. And so what? They can like sacrifice their garbage monsters to put other pendulum monsters onto the battlefield. Or when it negates it, does it get rid of its like DDD subtype?
It does not get rid of subtypes.
Okay. I think this is tier 1. I don't like it.
Okay. Your opponent cannot target monsters you control with card effects is a huge deal. So it's like very hard to remove this because it doesn't say other monsters. It says monsters. So like, how are you going to remove this without like attacking over it? Attacking over it, it has 3,500 attacks. So you're really going to attack over it with over 3,500? There are a lot of cards that can do that out of the extra deck. But when you summon the card out of the extra deck, it gets negated by this. So this negates the very thing that you would be attacking over this with. And it continually negates. The negate is not once per turn. So you summon something, gets negated. Summon the next thing, gets negated.
I
thought
it was like ETB, just like, this is it.
No. This is not once per turn. The problem with it is that, like, it's relatively hard to summon, number one. Number two, the DDD archetype, as an archetype, is, like, had its time in the sun, was very, very good at one point, years and years ago. Also, it had a little bit better things going on in the past year or two. But it's not like a tier 1 deck. So this is medium because the deck is medium. But like this deck is obvious. This card is obviously extremely, extremely broken if you can play it. But most decks can't play it. And I don't even know. Like the evaluation of this card is like what you said. Like it's tier 0 if we're going for our tier system because it's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's not played like competitively.
Okay, guys. Well, then I would still think it's tier 1. I mean, you guys want to prove this card is good, or I send it to a tournament that prove us this card is good. Get it in play.
Right, the play it.
Got, like, there's a lot of cards that look amazing if you can cast it, but if if it's 12 mana, then it's useless.
Yeah, you play it in a tournament, and then you take a picture of you blowing your opponent out with DDD Super Doom King Bright Armageddon, put it in the comments, and then there you go. Then it's tier -1.
You at me on Twitter, I'll retweet it to all my Magic fans. They'll see the wrath of the DDD Super Doom King Bright Armageddon.
Yes,
it's got the word Armageddon and King in the title.
Yes, at Nikachu on Twitter, at the One Jam on Twitter. Tell us all about it.
At Nikachu MTG. Remember, a lot of other Nikachus out there.
At Nikachu MTG on Twitter.
We got the Nirvana High Paladin for 10 Dragon Balls. It's another pendulum-looking card. And it's a Spellcaster Synchro effect. Now, it's got 8 Candy Crush symbols on both the left and the right. Is there any time, like, the Candy Crush numbers are, like, different? Like, one side's 8, one side's 2?
I don't think so. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's ever one that's different.
If a pendulum monster you control attacks, for that battle, it cannot be destroyed by battle. So it is indestructible during the attack step. Also, you take no battle damage at the end of the damage step. If a pendulum monster you control attacked, all monsters your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to that attacking monster's attack until end of turn. And it also has spellcaster synchro effect, 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner synchro monsters for this card's synchro summon. You can treat one pendulum summoned pendulum monster you control as a tuner. Well, that's weird. If this card is synchro summoned using a pendulum summoned pendulum monster tuner, it's like a tongue twister. You can target one card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can have your opponent's life points. If this card is in the monster zone or is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can place the card in your pendulum zone. This card at first look looks insane. So you get card advantage because you can like bring anything from your graveyard back to your hand. You can like half your opponent's life total, and that doesn't even include its attack. So that looks pretty good at first. Let's reread this thing. Pendulum monster you control attacks without battle. It cannot be destroyed by battle. Oh yeah, it's indestructible basically during the combat step. All monsters your opponents can currently control lose attack equal to that attacking monster's attack until end of turn. So like if I attack anything, they basically can't damage this thing because their attack is going to be reduced to 0.
For the pendulum
Is that
effect?
how it reads? Yeah, the pendulum effect. All monsters your opponents currently control lose attack equal to that attacking monster's attack until the end of this turn.
If you attack with a monster that has like 2,000 attack, okay,
yeah,
and it's the pendulum monster, it will attack, and then for that battle, it can't be destroyed by battle, and then you take no battle damage. And then at the end of the damage step, if the pendulum monster attacked, all monsters your opponent controls lose 2,000 attack because the monster you attacked with had 2,000 attack.
Oh, it's equal to like what I attacked with.
Yes.
That's crazy. Although this thing is in the pendulum zone, so I can't even count itself at the moment.
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I like the sound of that. Okay, so how beneficial is the second half to this card? You can treat one pendulum summon pendulum monster you control as a tuner. Or whatever. I guess is that to help cast this card?
Yes, it's to help make it, yeah.
Okay, so basically it doesn't need to be that specific in order to get this in play. That already makes it a lot more playable. If this card is synchro summoned using a pendulum summoned pendulum monster tuner. Oh god. I need to synchro with a very specific card. Synchro with a pendulum summoned pendulum monster tuner. You can target one card in your graveyard, add it to hand. So basically, I have to like synchro it with another really good card on the battlefield already.
Right, like if you have a level 8 synchro monster that you already have in play, but this is level what, 10? If you have a level, let's say you have a level 6 synchro monster on your board already, since this needs a non-tuner synchro monster to make it, and then you have a level 4 tuner pendulum monster that was pendulum summoned, which is like a harmonizing magician, then level 4 harmonizing magician, level 6 synchro non-tuner, if harmonizing magician was pendulum summoned, can synchro into Nirvana High Paladin. And then, since you used a pendulum summoned pendulum monster tuner, it triggers this effect for you to be able to target a card in your graveyard and add it to your hand.
At first that sounded amazing, but the fact that I have to jump through so many damn hoops in order to cast this card makes it pretty stupid. It's funny, on one half of this card, they make it easy. It's like, okay, this card can be any tuner. It's all good. And on the other half of the card, no, you have to be insanely specific. And also, you probably had enough trouble getting that thing in play. And now this thing's going to get even like harder to get in play. So that one, just for one card, F it. No way. That's not worth it. And then when this card destroys an opponent's monster, so you can target one card in your graveyard, add to your hand. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can have your opponent's half your opponent's life points. So if it just blasts or anything, So basically, it's a super big attacking creature, which we already know in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is worthless. The most important thing is the text that has nothing to do with the attack or defense. I'm giving this card a tier 1.
Look at that. All the highest cards, and you're like, this card sucks, this card sucks, this card sucks.
Yeah, like all these cards, there's all this text on it, it's all worthless to me.
You're finally learning Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of stuff has a lot of words, but they're just not that playable.
So it's actually not that good. It's all there for intimidation. Your opponent comes out, I've got the Nirvana High Paladin. Guess what? It's got all this stuff. Do you tremble in fear, Yugi? No, I do not tremble, Kaiba, because I've seen through your scheme. This stupid Nirvana High Paladin made you sacrifice your best cards, and there's no match for my Dark Magician. I don't know any of his stupid creatures, because he has like almost none. All his creatures are like normal nonsense.
I have to say, for all the Nirvana High Paladin lovers in the chat, this card was playable at one time because it was like a little easier to summon this thing. I think they did use Harmonizing Magician to summon this. This card could be playable at some time in the future when they make like really, really, really broken Pendulum cards like they've done in the past. But and this can facilitate like weird loops and stuff by like adding a really powerful card back from your graveyard to your hand. But overall, right now, card is trash.
That's me. You psyched me out when you said you didn't want to answer my question. If there was trash cards, I was sort of assuming actually all the cards would be good. Like all the cards would be good if they're a pendulum monster.
There's a lot of pendulum monsters that are very, very good.
All this text.
But there are pendulum monsters that are very, very good. But these ones have not been those cards. Okay. Let's go ahead and go on to the penultimate card. The most words in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are on this card, and you, my friend, will be evaluating it. Are you ready?
I'm ready, and that's why they don't have any of those last Pendulum cards on the anime, because if they did, I mean, everyone would just tune out just halfway through people reading them, and it doesn't even do anything.
It's like, Yugi, what does this card do? Blah, blah, blah. He starts talking for 10 minutes, and you've already stopped watching at this point.
It's a cheap way for the villains to monologue.
Yeah, you're right.
Endymion, the mighty master of magic, for 7 Dragon Balls, and also 8 Candy Crush crystals. You may remove 6 spell counters from your field. Special summon this card from the Pendulum Zone. Then count the number of cards you control that can have a spell counter. Destroy up to that many cards on the field. And if you do, place spell counters on this card equal to the number of cards destroyed. You can only use this effect of Endymion, the mighty master of magic, once per turn. It is a spellcaster pendulum effect with attack 2,800 and defense of 1,700. Once per turn, when a spell/trap card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can return 1 card you control with a spell counter to the hand. And if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy it. Then you can place the same number of spell counters on this card that the returned card had, while this card has a spell counter. Your opponent cannot target it with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When this card with a spell counter is destroyed by battle, you can add 1 normal spell from your deck to your hand. Are you scared, Yugi? You should be.
I'm terrified.
Yes.
That's the entire villain monologue. You don't have to say, the villain doesn't have to say anything else. Did you understand any of that?
Concede on the spot.
Yeah, just, oh, it's too good. It's too many words.
Yeah. You got me, Kaiba. Okay, what the hell? Okay, I really have no idea what the hell this card does. Okay, remove 6 spell counters from the, you can remove 6 spell counters from the field. Special summon this card from this Pendulum Zone. Spell counters from your field? What the hell is a spell counter?
Now's the time where I tell you what a spell counter is.
All right.
Some cards trigger when a spell card is activated. If they say they can have a spell counter, they can have a spell counter. Some cards add 1 spell counter per spell. Some cards add 2 spell counters per spell. It will say it on the card how many spell counters it gets, and it's literally like a +1/+1 counter, but it doesn't like alter the stats at all. It just gets a spell counter on the card.
Right.
And then you can use those spell counters in whichever way that your cards say that you can use spell counters. There is a really old card that used spell counters very, very much, and it was a very good card in its day, Royal Magical Library, that you can, whenever you play a spell, you get a spell counter, and you can remove 3 spell counters from it to draw an additional card. So it was a very good card, and that was, I think, one of the first applications of spell counters, but this card uses spell counters in this way, and they're unique for each card that has spell counters on them, if that makes sense.
Right. It does. It actually sounds like an incredibly broken effect. So I don't even have to... In addition to removing the spell counters, do I still have to, like, sacrifice creatures to tribute this thing into play?
Unlike the synchro monsters that are Pendulum monsters that I've already shown you, you can just put this card from your hand into the left or right spell and trap card zones as in your Pendulum scale. They don't have to be destroyed first like the Pendulum monster. You just place this from your hand there as a sorcery speed action, and then this will apply.
No, but I'm just wondering. Okay, so the whole the point is of this special ability is I can bring this guy back from the dead by removing 6 spell counters from the field.
Well, it doesn't die. It's
he's
just
not really. He's not really in the dead. He's not dead. He's in the Pendulum zone.
Right. So you can bring him from the Pendulum zone into your monster zone by removing 6 spell counters from your field, among other cards on your field or whatever.
Because I'm just a little confused. He costs 7 Dragon Balls, and if I understand, a card that costs 7 Dragon Balls, you special summon by sacrificing at least 1 creature.
You can normal summon this card by sacrificing by tributing 2 creatures to normal summon this card, but you would never do that with this card. You would just put it in your Pendulum zone and then remove 6 counters and special summon it.
That is broken. Like, that is absolutely broken, especially since it sounds like these spell counter things are useless, except to, like, ramp this guy back out onto the battlefield. And it sounds like they can just keep coming back, so it's like almost impossible to get rid of this thing. So what it really comes down to is how good are its Pendulum effect. And once per turn, when a spell, trap card, or effect is activated as a quick effect, you can return 1 card you control with a spell counter to the hand. Wow, that's insane! So if someone tries to interact with me, I can get something back from the graveyard, and then if you do, negate the activation, and I counter their effect at the same time?
Well, it's not from the graveyard. Is that
how I'm interpreting this?
You don't get it from the graveyard. Return a card you control with a spell counter to the hand.
Oh, it's like in play. So I like return a monster back to my hand.
Or a card in a Pendulum zone back to the hand if the card in the Pendulum zone has a counter on it.
That's still pretty good, and I still negate the effect. And like, so long as I have stuff in play, like it sounds broken to me. If you do negate the activation, if you do that, hold on, what are we destroying? If you do that, destroy it.
You will destroy the spell and trap card that they activated.
That's insane. Okay, and then next, we destroy it. Then you can place the same number of spell counters on this card that the returned card had. So we don't even lose any of the spell counters that were originally there. Although I don't know how to move the spell counters after that. When this card has a spell counter, your opponents cannot target it with card effects. So it has hexproof.
Yep.
That's absolutely broken. It cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When this card with a spell counter is destroyed by battle, you can add 1 normal spell from your deck to your hand. So it tutors as well? Okay, so let's get this straight. This card is it's basically Hogak, because when it effectively is gone off the battlefield, you can resummon it if there's enough resources, in this case, the spell counters. These spell counter cards would have to be really, really, really bad for this card to be bad. Like, it has to be absolute garbage. You have to, like, do circus level somersaults to get the spell counters activated. Because if you can trigger them by any normal means, this card is, because it's so strong and it's recurable over and over again. You'd basically have to destroy this thing when it's in the Pendulum zone to get rid of it permanently, right?
No. Unlike the synchro monsters, like when you destroy them in the monster zone, they just go back into your scale. That is not how regular Pendulum monsters. Once you destroy a Pendulum monster, it goes face up into your extra deck.
Oh, but it's okay. So, but it's then that's still not that bad because it's not going into my graveyard.
Right.
So it's face up in my extra deck, but I can still keep bringing it out. It still has the Hogak effect.
Well, you can bring it out by Pendulum summoning it. You see how there's 8s there. If you have a Pendulum scale in your other scale with the number 6 on it or less, so 8 and 6, you can summon a level 7. This is level 7. So you can Pendulum summon this out of your face-up extra deck into your extra monster zone, or into any zone a link monster points to on your field. So yes, you can get this back.
That meant nothing to me. Yeah, I'll get it back, but it sounds like it's more restricting than just remove. But can I cheat all that stuff away by just removing 6 spell counters?
While it's face up in your extra deck, you cannot use the 6 spell counter effect. It has to be in your Pendulum zone.
Because it's not even in play anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Then that ability is useless to me. So hold on. How does this? How does this go to the Pendulum zone?
You put it in the Pendulum zone from your hand as a sorcery speed action.
Okay, so basically, step 1. Why would it be in my hand? Why isn't it in my extra deck?
Oh, when it goes to your extra deck, when it gets sent from the field, when it would get sent from the field to the graveyard in any way, it goes into your face-up extra deck instead. I understand.
So from my extra deck, can I play this as a sorcery speed thing to put in my Pendulum zone? No. Why can't I do that? Well, then how the hell do I get this in my Pendulum zone?
You put it from your hand into the Pendulum zone.
Sorry. No, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I want to. Okay. So I put this thing from my extra deck to the Pendulum zone.
You can't do that.
Is that how that works? Do I have to draw this thing or something?
You have to draw it. Or tutor it.
I thought this is a companion zone. I thought I can just dig into my extra deck for whatever I wanted.
No. This is an effect monster. This is not a synchro monster. This is not an extra deck monster. This is a normal monster that goes in your deck.
Oh, this comes from my deck.
Yes.
Oh, I was very confused. When I see this Pendulum effect, like, oh, this is a very special card. This must be an extra deck monster. What the hell makes it an extra deck monster then?
You see where it says Spellcaster Pendulum effect?
Yes.
The other ones, if it says Synchro and it's white colored like the other ones were, then it goes in the extra deck. If it's like black like an Exceed monster, then it would go in the extra deck. If it's like purple like a fusion monster, it would go in the extra deck. This is an orange monster, so it goes in the main deck.
Well, that makes this card a lot worse because I can't just play it out of nowhere. But I still think this is relatively strong because when it's on the battlefield, I can return monsters back to my hand and basically counter effects and destroy the card. Also, it effectively has hexproof as far as I'm concerned, which means it can't be targeted.
And indestructible.
Yeah, and indestructible. Opponents can't target with card effects. It cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When this card with a spell counter is destroyed by battle, you can add 1 normal spell from your deck to your hand. That's broken too. So it's it's a tutor as well. But so it's interactive. It's really resistant. It's recurable. I like this card. I'm giving it tier -1.
This card is close to a tier -1, but I'm going to call it a tier 0 because the Pendulum.
Okay.
The Pendulum deck, the cards that you would play in the deck for Pendulums are not the best thing that you can be doing in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's very strong, but the Pendulum archetype cannot play enough going second interactive cards like hand traps, or it can't play enough of those cards in order to warrant playing a deck like this. You will just get run over by your opponent's turn 1 play if you can't stop them. And if this deck is going second, it's harder to stop what your opponent is doing on your opponent's turn. So you have less Force of Wills in your deck. And if you have less Force of Wills in your deck, your opponent can just combo kill you, right? Especially in Vintage and Legacy and stuff like that. So this is a deck that's very powerful.
Is this so is the spell counter cards, are they just garbage?
No. They're pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
They're pretty good.
I assumed that one right.
Yeah. This is basically like a combo deck in Magic in Legacy or Vintage, but it cannot. But it's so combo heavy that it can't play as many Force of Wills, and then it can just lose to your opponent's turn 1 combo without having because you don't have a Force of Will.
I don't understand, why can't it play Force of Wills?
You could technically, but with Pendulum decks, you need a critical mass of Pendulum cards in your deck in order to have you have to have a Pendulum scale and another Pendulum scale, and then you have to be able to Pendulum summon monsters. So in order to have you have to have a critical mass of Pendulum monsters in order to have one in each scale. So
yeah, to make the combo have enough synergy, you have to need enough cards in that direction to make that synergy consistent.
yes,
And for that, you got to squeeze out the interactive cards. I get it.
yes, that's exactly
Poor
right.
poor Endymion. You're not as dangerous as you look. You are just a big, clunky combo killer.
Well, let's be fair. This card is very, 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 very strong. Like, if you're going first and you have this on your board, your opponent has to have Dark Ruler no more, which is basically like a mass silence effect that stops all of your opponent's cards and they can't interact with it. They can't respond to it. That card exists in Yu-Gi-Oh! They have to have some crazy card to be able to beat this card, and if they don't, they're probably going to lose, because decks like this deck will have like 10, 12, 18, 24 spell counters on their field. Then as soon as you try to do something, they'll just return a card with Endymion to counter your spell, and then they have Endymion that you can't get rid of, and then you'll just not be able to play the game, and then pass the turn, and then the Pendulum deck will kill you. But if this Pendulum deck's going second, it's harder. So they don't, because they can't play as many Force of Wills.
Right. Is this like some sort of dredge deck where, they just put the onus on the opponent to like interact with you, and if you don't, you just die?
Yes. But there's a lot of decks like that, and this is the one of them that can't interact as well to the other decks.
Okay, gotcha. So it's like it's super powerful, but it's doing one thing. You deal with it or you die. And if you deal with it, well, we die. And I guess some other decks can go over the top, maybe. Are there some decks that are slightly interactive and also combo-y?
Yeah, actually, this is the go over the top deck. This deck will go over the top of you if you can't interact well enough with it. But there's a lot of decks that are like more mid-rangey that will interact with you a lot and also do something that's slightly less powerful than this Endymion card, but win the game because they stopped you. I have a bonus card for you, and it requires actually no analysis. So if you want to stick for the bonus round, here you are. You get to read another very, very wordy card that doesn't mean anything.
The Gunkin Saship Shari for 4 Dragon Balls. It is a giant piece of sushi. It sort of looks like it. A big piece of sushi. It is an aqua normal effect. It has no defense. Oh, but you told me like it doesn't die.
Right.
It just means like it doesn't absorb any damage. And it attacks for 2,000. That is a very aggressive piece of sushi. And it's got what? It just has like the most flavor text possible.
Correct. This is the most flavor text in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, finally got to visit that harbor specializing in the Gunkin sous ship. Yeah, sous ship that I've been curious about for a while. The premium Shari? Yeah, I guess the premium Shari here is limited to 2,000 sous ships a year. And uses specially developed smooth aged rice, giving it extra boldness and found everywhere else. The classy atmosphere make my heart sing too. The Gunkin sous ship served had a perfect balance of vinegar, nigiri, shine, and shape, demonstrating exquisite artisanship. The owner told me we are introducing rich yet mellow, scented Edo front red vinegar in the meat future? Huh? I can't read that part.
In the near future.
Oh, in the near future, which I'm really looking forward to. However, I was disappointed the surrounding seas were a little noisy. So giving a 4 stars with the hope of improvements in the future. Well, you can't judge the seas. That was that's supposed to be that's a feature, not a bug. You're supposed to like the ocean when you're eating.
Yes, and actually, do you see when they said they added a hint of vinegar for in the near? They're gonna add a hint of vinegar for the near future. This card was actually printed in the near future.
It is the Gunkin Starship Shari, and it's red, probably for the red vinegar effect. It's an aqua effect. This time it attacks for 0, but has a defense of 2,000. This card's name becomes Gunkin Suship Shari while in the hand, deck, graveyard, or on the field. You can only use the following effect of Gunkin Suship Shari red once per turn. You can reveal one other Gunkin Suship Shari in your hand, special summon this card from your hand, then you can apply this effect. And the effect is special summon one Gunkin monster from your deck, except Gunkin Suship Shari, but negate its effects of any, then special summon from your extra deck one XYZ monster that mentions that special summoned monster's name using the monster and this card as material. This is treated as an XYZ summon. Is this even playable at all?
No.
Like, it actually looks like it does something.
Yeah, but it's not playable.
Okay, it's not playable. Okay, so it does something, but it's crap.
But it's really funny.
It is the sequel.
That the flavor text here says that they're going to be adding some red vinegar in the near future, and then printed the red vinegar one. Anyway,
all right, that's good for Yugi, Joey. What are all his other friends? They're hungry people. They're going to eat a lot of sushi.
Exactly. So anyway, I thought that was really funny, and also it ties into having the most flavor text in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. Damn it, it's like absolutely pointless reading these cards. I swear, I would just have to play against them and lose against them like 10 or 20 times to internalize how it actually works. Reading it is absolutely pointless. I would never be able to really judge how powerful or how bad this thing is unless I actually played against it. I would just be like, I'm just going to trust you, whatever. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't need to read this card. If whatever it does to me, good. I'm just going to assume that's how it works.
Yeah.
How does judging work in tournaments with these cards? Like, does everyone just like call a judge and constantly ask for like what cards do or don't, or does everyone really know what everything does?
There's something in Yu-Gi-Oh called problem solving card text, PSCT for short, that like every single colon, semicolon, comma, wording like and if you do or then or when you can things actually means something in Yu-Gi-Oh. And it means like if something sends to the graveyard for cost, or if it's not cost to do it, or anything like that, just like it is in Magic. But for every little wording that the cards like this have, actually means something pretty significant in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. And so most Yu-Gi-Oh players know what's going on when they read something like this because it's worded in problem-solving card text. But if there's any questions, then the judge just knows.
Right. I guess it's like that in Magic. Like, cards have tons of words on them themselves. We just know what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Like Questing Beast. You don't really need to know what that card does. It just does the thing, and you're like, oh, it does that too? And then your opponent's like, yeah, and you're like, oh, crap.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Just like Questing Beast.
Yeah, just like Questing Beast. Yeah. Anyway, if you want to see some more outrageous cards for Nikachu to evaluate, go ahead and let us know down in the comments. I really, really hope you enjoyed this penultimate episode of everything having the most text in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this. Like the video if you liked it to help it reach more people. Follow Nikachu on YouTube if you want to see more Nikachu's content. And I will see you in the next one. Peace. Now you have everything you need to download Raid Shadow Legends and have just as an amazing time as I have. The link is down in the description below. Click it and I'll see you on the battlefield.